Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Spin Doctors Archive, the podcast. My name is Daniel Heinze. I'm a Spin Doctors fan from Leipzig, Germany, and I'm the guy behind spindoctorsarchive.com, your website for all things spins. And this show features discussions with Aaron Comess, the band's drummer, regarding the albums released by the band since their inception in the late 80s. And this is episode number 6, and today we are talking about Nice Talking to Me from 2005. After a hiatus and the 2001 reunion, Spin Doctors returned with their 5th studio album, marking Eric Schenkman's comeback on guitar. Ready for another deep dive into Spin Doctors history? Fantastic. But before we begin, if you have any questions about the band's albums that we haven't covered yet in previous episodes, now's your chance to have them answered. Ensure you stick around until the end of this episode for further information on that. Okay, let's go. Enjoy the episode. Great to have you here again, Aaron Comess, drummer and producer of Spin Doctors. Aaron, how are you?
Hey man, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Great to have you back. Let's talk about your 2005 album, Nice Talking to Me. It was released on September 13th, 2005 on Rough Nation Music, and it consists of 10 tracks: Nice Talking to Me, Sugar, Margarita, Happily Ever After, I'd Like to Love You, But I Think You Might Be Crazy, Can't Kick the Habit, My Problem Now, Genuine, Tonight You Could Steal Me Away, and Safety Pin, and an accompanying DVD with a featurette and 3 live performances. And the whole thing was produced and mixed by Matt Wallace, and you guys recorded it, as far as I know, in a studio in California in 2004.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we recorded the basic tracks at a studio called Sound City, which is a world-famous studio. I'm sure you've heard all about it. You know, Dave Grohl made a movie about it. It's in LA, and tons of classic records have been recorded there. Rumors by Fleetwood Mac was done there. A lot of it. Nevermind, Nirvana. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's still there. It's an incredible studio. So that was great. And then Matt Wallace, the producer, had his own smaller studio right across the street, right across the parking lot. So once we finished basics, we moved over to his place to do overdubs and mixing. So that's just a little tidbit there. As far as the record, I mean, it was the first thing we did after the band had reformed. You know, as you know, we did that reunion gig at the Wetlands
in 2001, yeah.
2001, which sort of led slowly but surely to us doing some more shows. We weren't super busy, but, you know, over time we started doing more and more gigs. The idea, maybe we should make a record, you know, things were going well, we were having a good time. So we started, you know, as usual, we started sort of just organically the writing process. And I might be getting my timeline a little bit mixed up, but if I recall, the first thing we did, we went to do some demos at Peter Denenberg's studio, Acme.
As far as I know, you did in 2002 already, or early 2003 or something like that.
Yeah, was it that early? Yeah. So we went in there, and I don't think we really had anything planned. We were like, let's go in there and do some stuff. And we showed up at Peter's, and, you know, like you do sometimes when you haven't worked together in a while, we just sort of looked, you know, everybody sort of looked around at each other. What do you want to do? And I think the first thing we did, I think we busted out, you know, I had the courage to bust out Happily Ever After, which was a song that, you know, after the whole Here Comes the Bride thing happened and Chris lost his voice, and we sort of decided to put the band on pause. Once Chris got his voice back, we sort of continued writing together, you know, in the same fashion that we were on Here Comes the Bride. You know, I had my studio and I'm always sort of recording tracks and stuff. And I had a couple of things, 2 of them being My Problem Now and Happily Ever After, that me and Chris did. And so when it came time to start writing and bringing in new material for a potential new record, you know, I felt like those were some pretty strong songs. We really liked them. So I brought them in, and we recorded Happily Ever After at Peter's. I remember Eric really liked it, and it came out pretty cool. You know, it was a cool version.
I need to briefly pause the conversation now to provide you with a bit of background. As you may know from the previous podcasts, Aaron and I were talking via Zoom. To jog Aaron's memory a little about how the recordings for Nice Talking to Me started back then, I was holding 2 demo CDs from 2002 and 2003 up to the camera at this moment. I'll explain another time why I, of all people, have them lying around in my apartment in Germany and what Spin Doctors singer Chris Barron and the pandemic have to do with this, I promise. Okay, let's move on.
Let's see. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Right, exactly. So we did My Problem Now too. Okay, so we recorded My Problem Now and Happily Ever After, and Eric had Genuine, which is a song that he wrote with Corky Lane. And I remember I actually always loved the version we did. We did a great version at Acme of that. Yes. The Love of Love. Holy shit.
That's a song from Chris and the Give Daddy 5 Days. And this was on
right. That was a Chris
demo as well.
We used to do that in the Give Daddy 5. So oh man, you gotta send me that.
Yeah, sure.
That was, as far as I remember, that was the beginning of anything that was going to end up on Nice Talking to Me. So 3 or 4 of those ended up going on. And then I remember Eric and Chris did some writing. I remember they wrote Tonight You Can Steal Me Away, I think was one of the first sort of new songs they wrote together, and Safety Pin, and what else is on that record?
I can give you another hint. I think there was a 2002 demo as well of you guys. It has 3 songs on it. Let's see.
Let me guess. I think because we went up to Canada. And I think it's going to have Tonight You Can Steal Me Away.
Exactly. Safety Pin.
Safety Pin, and one other one that I was just thinking about yesterday.
Yes. A song that never got released.
Yeah.
It's Flying Behind Myself.
Right. That was exactly. So Tonight You Steal Me Away and Safety Pin. Those were like the first 2 Chris and Eric got together and wrote for this. And Flying Behind Myself was one that me and Chris wrote later.
I see.
So we went up to Toronto and recorded with a friend of Eric's and did that demo. So now we had that's 7 songs, right?
About 6 or 7 songs, yeah.
7 songs. So then from there, you probably know better than me. I mean, were there any more demos at that point?
No, these are the only demos I know of. Tattoo Music Studio from 2002 and that Acme recording from 2003.
Right. So those
and I think demos. 5 of that 7 songs made it to the album.
Right. So then it was like, okay, what else are we going to put on? And we sort of got together and we wanted to bring back Nice Talking to Me, which is, as you remember, one of the really early songs. And it was kind of like, we always loved it. It had that, Eric, that great riff, and good lyrics. But it was always sort of just, it was always a fun song, but it seemed to never go over the hump because it was just sort of like, it almost felt like,
you never performed it back in the day. There are only 2 live versions from 1994 after you were toying around at the studio on the Turn It Upside Down sessions, but you never played it in public before, as far as I know.
I definitely remember us playing it back in the early days.
Oh, you did? Okay. So at the very early gigs.
I'm surprised there's no tapes, but I remember us playing it.
The earliest known recording is from the Cooler in 1994 in February, I think.
Did it?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. But anyway, it always just had this great vibe to it. We were like, man, it'd be really cool to bring that song back. So we put that on the list. What else is on the record?
Sugar, which is a song that you guys have been playing around earlier as well, right?
Sugar was a song that me and Chris started when we were doing the Here Comes the Bride sessions. It was this funky hip hop song, and we were getting, we were writing as a band, and I didn't want to push it. Chris loved the lyrics, and so we just came up with basically took the vibe, the funkiness of the song and Chris's lyrics, and came up with totally new music to the song. And it came out great. It's one of my favorite. One of my top 2 or 3 on that record. And it's one of the songs that we still play pretty regularly today. One of the biggest successes to me of the Nice Talking to Me record is the fact that there's about 3 songs on that record that we still play regularly in our set. And that's always the hardest thing, when you're playing, especially a band like us, that people expect to hear certain songs, but we like to mix it up. To have songs that are strong enough on an album to really work in the set, and the songs that we play regularly are Sugar, Margarita, and Nice Talking to Me are pretty regular staples. So I love that. And but yeah, Sugar was great. Of course, Margarita. I mean, Chris, the songs that Chris brought in by himself were Margarita, which I love. I mean, incredible song. And also he had really at the advice of our manager Sonnenberg, he was the one that really pushed for us to put "Can't Kick the Habit" on the record. And it was a little bit of a touchy issue. I think it was a little, there's always weird friction in bands. And I think, there's no question that when we were making Nice Talking to Me, although we were really happy to be back together, at the same time, it wasn't like a bundle of joy. There was some friction in the group. And I think there was some friction about, taking a song off Chris's record and, without getting into the
which wasn't out at that point.
Which wasn't out. And I think there was some friction with Chris because he was like, he had this record that he wanted to put out. And, there was all these it was just sort of silliness, really. But, the kind of typical band shit,
But I think everyone agrees that it was a perfect decision to put this song on. A lot of people consider this one of your top 10 studio moments ever.
I think it's great.
Studio version of Can't Kick the Habit.
I think it's great. And I think Chris's version on his record is great too. It's different, but I think we tried to sort of, we wanted to make it our own. And, I think it came out. I love it. And, there's that whole, we made that whole end thing with the big, Eric took a great guitar solo and it really stretched out. And it ended up being, at least for that period, it was a really big moment in our live show. We would play it every night and it was great. I mean, we haven't played, it's one of those songs I don't know if we'll ever play again. It's like certain songs, I mean, I would love to play them, but, certain songs seem to just fall away and then, whatever. But it was a great, it is a great song. And I do like the version. And
I witnessed one show with you guys where you played it in 2005 in Prague. Actually, my first Spin Doctors show ever was 2005. And you guys played the song in the middle of the set and you could witness people having tears in their eyes and standing there in awe about what you guys are doing on stage, especially the long solo from Eric. And in the end, grown men were like blown away and completely shattered by what you were doing on stage. So this was an amazing moment, actually.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we should play it again. It's funny. Like I said, it's interesting how certain songs this sort of, and for whatever reason, there's always a lot. Sometimes, there's inner band reasons, and other times it's just you forget about them. Bottom line is like, it's, it's
I get the idea. It's kind of complicated to get the whole acoustic guitar setup into the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's another instrument to mix.
It's another instrument to deal with. It's one thing when you're out on tour and you bring in your own gear and it's in a truck. It's another thing, we do so many fly dates where we fly. So it does complicate. It's another piece of gear. It's you got to bring it or you got to rent it or Anyway, for now it's just been out of the mix. But that's it. That would be a great song to bring back at some point. Especially if we were doing if we went out and did like a 3 or 4 week club tour or theater tour or something. It would really be it would work. I mean, you have to also think about like the kind of shows. I write the set lists, as you know, because I send them to you. And I really do my best to mix things up. But I also try to really be sensitive to the audiences that we're playing in front of. And you don't want to alienate an audience, because Can't Kick the Habit, it's one of those songs that if you're at a club or a theater and it's like everybody's really focused, like you said, your experience with it, people were really blown away by it. But it's also some of the slower songs also, if you're playing like a big festival, you're playing a outdoor, we do all these outdoor shows where, it's also the kind of song that if you don't have people's full attention, it could sort of just sink you. So you have to be careful, and I'm always sensitive to trying to mix our stuff up as much as we can and also try to really put on a good show,
And I can also understand that if you have like an hour of show and you want to play a ballad, it's a logical choice to go to How Could You Want Him, for example, because
that's a song
people might know and love it.
People love it. It's a known song. So, yeah. But we, as you see, we take our chances. We'll throw in like a 40 or 50 or something. I mean, and I think I'm all for mixing stuff up, more and more. But anyway, so So anyway, so we finally, so we had I'm sure there was some other songs floating around too that I just can't recall right now.
I think at the old Spin Doctors forum back in 2005, around the release, your webmaster and tour manager JB once wrote that also the Chris Solo song "I Must Be the King" was one of the songs that you.
All right, that was another song
for the album, right?
We actually recorded that. That was one of the songs.
Never heard that.
That song was recorded, and that was on the list and recorded at the session. And it just didn't make the record. It sounded good. We just couldn't get it. Chris had a great version on his solo record. I think it's one of those things where it's hard when you have like, somebody already did a really good version of it on their own record, and you're trying to like, take the best of that and make it your own. And it, I remember I love that song actually. And it just didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't make the cut.
So what about Flying Behind Myself? Was this song in consideration at that point, or was it already out?
I think it's possible we brought it in. Like, so basically the next step was this. We had, as I remember, the next step was we decided to work with Matt Wallace, who's a great producer. He had a really good track record. I can't remember exactly how we stumbled across him. I know we had a list of producers.
If I remember correctly, he produced the Blues Traveler Bridge album, and I once read there was a recommendation from the Blues Traveler camp or something like that.
I think that was just coincidence, but he did work with Blues Traveler. He'd done that Maroon 5 record, which was massive at the time. That was appealing to us. He was coming off of a big hit. He had a good track record. I forget, but we were talking to a lot of different people. We were sending demos to people. And we just really liked him. We liked his vibe. So we went out to LA, and one of the things that was great about this session is that we did it. We also did this with You Gotta Believe in Something, but we did a lot of pre-production. We spent about 2 solid weeks on pre-production in LA with Matt. And Matt did something that nobody has ever done with us. We got there, and we had already sent him all the songs that the songs that we wanted to do. And he helped, sort of pick them as well. And he said, okay, we're going to sit on the couch. We're not going to plug in our amps. We're going to sit around with acoustic guitars and come up with the arrangements of the songs. Make sure we have a great song. Make sure we have a great arrangement. Let's make sure we have that first before we go to our loud instruments and get all of our stuff together. And I love that idea, because to me, a great song starts at the core. The lyrics, the vocals, the melody, the music. So you
made sure that you can play it on a campfire before you.
Yeah, a good song should sound good on an acoustic guitar. Yeah. There's other kinds of music, like for instance, Here Comes the Bride was a little bit different of an approach. A lot of those songs worked like that too, but a lot of them were a little more experimental and sort of built from the ground up. But this was going to be a real band record, and we wanted to make sure we had the material as strong as possible. So I thought it was great. And we spent, before we got on our instruments, we made sure that we were really dialed in to everything. And Matt was great like that. And he really pushed, and he changed, he made some great suggestions. So he was like, nice talking to me. This is cool, but it's like half a song, where's the chorus, And so we came up with that, hey, hey, honey, honey, that chorus then. And it really, I really thought it just turned it just made all the difference. It really, because before it was just this awesome riff. It had a good hook, and we loved it. And it was cool like that, but it was just sort of, it didn't really pop. And I think we added the bridge. So we really took what was the skeleton of a great idea and made it into a strong song. And Matt was really influential in pushing us to do that. And also with Happily Ever After.
That changed from major to minor or something like that?
Well, we did. We basically reharmonized it. So at first, it was all about that. It still kept, it still remained with that guitar riff, and, everything about it stayed the same essentially, but we reharmonized the chords. So there's all these different chords, and the vibe changed, and it turned into this, and it's hard to that's a song that I came up with the music for. And sometimes it's hard to let go of something. That's one of the hardest things for a writer or musician to do. But it's also, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like, for instance, I thought Bad Train was an example on You Gotta Believe in Something where it didn't really work. in my opinion. Not that it
Yeah.
didn't work, but I didn't like it as much as the original. And luckily, we had a chance to redeem ourselves. But Happily Ever After, I think, really worked, and it added this sort of different feeling to the song, sort of a mellowness, and I love it. I really love how it came out. Um, and a lot of things like that, Matt was really instrumental in just coming up. Margarita, I think it was his idea to sort of like modulate the bridge in a different way than it was. So there was some arrangement quarterly that changed in that. So a lot of little subtle things, that he helped with. And so then we got on our instruments. So by the time we got in the studio, we were really dialed in. It was like we were prepared. There was no question about arrangements. So a lot of times you go in the studio, and which is also great. A lot of times, listen, I mean, sometimes you go in the studio and you're learning the song for the first time or writing the song, and you just go with it. And that can be a great way to capture beauty, which is kind of what we did on the new record that we'll talk about later. But there's also something really cool about total preparation and like really dialing into the material. So when you get in the studio, you're just relaxed. Everybody knows what they're going to do. There's always room for interpretation, and we definitely, things still change, and you can still come up with fresh ideas in the studio. But we went in very prepared, and so we cut the basics at Sound City. Like I said before, just a legendary studio. It's like you feel like you're in the middle, like 1975 in there. The carpet's still, they really haven't cleaned it in fucking 40 years, But that's part of the charm of it. But it's a great sounding room and great gear. And so there's this history there, which is always a cool environment to record in. And it was a lot of fun for us, living out in LA while we were doing it. And so everything, the basic tracks, I can't remember how long they took. And we tend to do basic tracks pretty quickly. It went well, and we had these great tracks. And then we moved across the street for about 3 weeks or so, into the smaller studio, and did overdubs and vocals, and we just did it, and there you have it, and then Matt. We went home after we were all happy.
I looked it up. It was called Studio Deluxe or Deluxe or something like that.
Right, that's Matt's
own studio. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he still has the same studio there.
I see.
And it was just a cool little cozy studio. It was like one room, couches. He had great gear, and Matt was great. He just had such a great energy about him. Super cool, super positive, but he wasn't afraid to push hard, so it was, I'd say for the most part, it was there was a little tension for sure. There was some inner band tension going on at the same time, but we managed it. And I think it's, Matt mixed it. He did the whole thing. I think he did a great job with the mixes. I like him because some of them, like a song like Sugar, I mean, he really just pounded it. It's very aggressive, it almost feels like it's blowing up by the end of it, and I think it's a good sounding record. I think Matt did a great job. And again, to me, sadly, it, we had what we thought was a good record deal with Rough Nation, but then the label went bankrupt 2 weeks after the record came up. It was just a total, typical record industry debacle. We had this record out, we had tour booked, and we still went out and toured, but there was just, the record label folded. So it was pretty much a stiff, had a little bit of airplay. I think Can't Get the Habit got in a movie or something, and Margarita got a little airplay, but we really, I remember, I think Can't Get the Habit was the first single on AAA radio. Another decision I wasn't crazy about. I always felt Margarita was the sure, it was just, to me, it was undeniable,
which never was a single. There were two single.
I guess it
releases.
never was. The idea was
the Habit and Nice Talking to Me later was a promotional release.
Yeah, the idea I thought was we were going to put out Can't Kick the Habit and then come back with Margarita. Again, I think it was at that point, it was just getting hard to get on the radio anyway. Things had changed. It's already 2005 or 6 or whatever. So, but I do think that Margarita was like a song that, in a lot of ways it cried out hit song, and it still does. We still play it all the time.
It's a fantastic tune, and
Great.
people love it, even if they did not know it before they heard it the first time on your show.
Yeah, I think exactly. It goes over like it's one of those songs where you play it and it just people react to it like they know it. They're singing along to it. But the thing to me that was successful, like I said earlier, with that record more than anything is the fact that I really like the record, and the fact that we play like 3 or 4 songs regularly to this day in our set is great. So I think it was a success, and I think the record holds up well, and it was fun making it, and working with Matt was a real thrill. And
a lot of critics and fans back in the day said that this was like kind of a logical follow-up to Turn It Upside Down in some ways, with Eric being back on the guitar, of course, but also from the songwriting perspective. So I agree that there are a lot of strong songs, and it's a wonderful, upbeat, fun record with some deeper, darker moments. So I love Genuine. I love Can't Kick the Habit, of course. So
how about I'd Like to Love You, but I think
I'd Like to Love You, but I think I Might Be Crazy is also very.
That was a great one. That was one of my favorites. Yeah, it's a good record, and yeah, I mean, it was great to have the 4 of us back together. It was the first thing we did in a while, and I mean, it was like, it just felt right. It really showcased like all those records we did. Everybody really was showcased musically. It was just it was great. Everybody sounded great on it, and something to be proud of for sure.
One thing that I was always wondering about this album, and I think we had this conversation a couple of years ago already, was that it includes some quotes of you guys' previous work in a way. So we talked about Nice Talking to Me being an old song that you guys reworked, but also Sugar and Safety Pin includes some stuff that Eric did use on his solo album in 1998. So there are some riffs or some stuff that was familiar in a way. And at first I didn't know where it was from, and then of course, Eric must have brought it into the band. Yeah,
I think that middle part in Sugar
exactly.
One of his songs off one of his solo records.
And Safety Pin, the guitar riff from Safety Pin is from the opening track of his solo album, I think. But it's way slower. It's way slower on his record.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic album, and hopefully you guys will continue to play songs from that during your live shows, because the album is much loved between fans, and people who don't know it should get it and should learn about those songs and listen to them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron, for talking about this wonderful album. Next time, let's talk about your 13 album, If the River Was Whiskey.
That was good. Nice talking.
So much for our conversation about Nice Talking to Me. As always, thank you for listening. I already hinted at it at the beginning. Aaron has agreed to record a bonus episode of this series. In it, we want to answer your questions about the Spin Doctors discography. You've already asked some very good questions in the comments under our Facebook and Instagram posts, but I want more. So please send me your questions, preferably via Instagram DM. Our Instagram handle is Spin Doctors Archive. I'm really looking forward to your questions for Aaron. As always, please check spindoctorsarchive.com for all Spin Doctors information, including current and past set lists, links to numerous live recordings, a detailed band discography, solo discographies of each band member, a comprehensive list of all original and cover songs performed or recorded by the band, and much, much more. And please connect with us on Instagram and Facebook, and feel free to share your feedback on the podcast. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming episodes. Next time, it's all about If the River Was Whiskey from 2013. I'm Daniel. Thanks for listening. Until next time, Mau Bi Jiao. Oh, you're still here? Cool. I have another tip for you. Music by Spin Doctors singer Chris Barron.
They call me Chris Barron. Chris Barron is my name.
SpinDoctorsArchive.com proudly presents the best of the Chris Barron Thirsty Thursday Happy Hour.
It's the Chris Barron Thirsty Thursday Happy Hour.
This musical compilation features live recordings from Chris's weekly webcast series, which he presented during the peak of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, compiled and edited by yours truly.
Down my jeans said, Dad, I wanna go to Hollywood and be in the picture shows. And he said, Norma, what will they do when you go? Well, Dad, they'll take lots of pictures and call me Marilyn Monroe.
I simply picked my favorite performances from the 2021 run of the show and created a live sampler for everyone to enjoy.
These things and others I find all in the eye of the needle. All in the eye of the needle in my mind.
It gets even better. Chris Barron himself gave the green light for the project and even crafted a touching and moving introduction for the collection, which is really worth reading.
Don't look down as you soar for miles, 'cause every fool who falls gets to fly for a while.
Visit our website spindoctorsarchive.com to stream or download the free compilation album The Best of the Chris Barron Thirsty Thursday Happy Hour. I really recommend it.
Daniel loves the deep cuts.